Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Cohn, and you're watching the DMLC Racing channel. Tonight, we are doing something really special here. Now, as you know, the Lionheart Racing Series means a great deal to me. It's like family to me. And in this family, there are many amazing individuals. Such as, for today, we have Mr. Tyler Graaf on our very first segment of the Heart of Lionheart. In this segment, we're just gonna have fun and just kind of get to know the amazing people that make up this league. So, Tyler, say hi to everyone. You're on camera, and why don't you tell us a bit about who exactly is Tyler Graaf?
Hey, Mark. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be the guinea pig. Yeah, like I said, my name's Tyler. I'm from originally from Becker, Minnesota. I live in Duluth now, and I'm a race fan at heart, an artist, graphic designer, whatever you want to call it, and I'm lucky enough to be able to kind of mix all those things together.
Awesome, man. That's great. Now, since you mentioned auto racing, what originally gave you the racing bug?
So in like 2001 or 2002, my dad got this like big EA Sports pack of games. They're all demos, so you got like 75% of the game, and you got to do whatever you wanted on them. And one of them was NASCAR Revolution SE, and my dad sat me down in front of the computer to shut me up for a couple minutes, and I think by about 2 hours, I knew all the drivers. And initially, I mean, as a kid, the brightest car on screen, I was 4 or 5 then, probably making you feel a little old, but I was 4 or 5 then, and the brightest car caught my attention. That was Jeff Gordon's car. And it's kind of history from there. I kind of shifted a little bit more toward IndyCar around 2004, 2005. But NASCAR and IndyCar, NASCAR up until a few years ago, were kind of what I fanboyed over.
That's awesome, man. Gosh, NASCAR Revolution SC, I actually played that so long ago. Wasn't that like around 99 or 2000 when it came out?
I think it was based on the 98 season. I don't know if my dad had gotten it late or if it was just a promotional pack from EA Sports and it came out late. But dude, I spent hours on that game. I guess you could kind of tie that back to the start of sim racing too, for me. It was I think it was an old Microsoft Sidewinder controller that I was using on that. It was awesome. And doing that, I mean, everything became a race, whether I was racing bicycles, scooters, foot races. I was kind of a smaller kid, so I didn't win very much, but everything had to be a race.
That's awesome. Now, I understand this racing bug got so big that you actually ended up, doing karting and then racing Skip Barber cars.
Yeah, so in the summer of 2008, so it was June or July 2008, my dad came to me one morning and said, "Hey, let's go drive some go-karts." My sister and my mom were down in Florida, I think as a gymnastics meet. My mom used to be a coach, my sister used to be a gymnast, and we went out to the local track here in Minnesota, which at the time was called, I think it was Stockholm Motorsports Park was the name at the time. And I got in this dinky little rental cart and kind of got to go to town for a couple hours. And by the end of it, we were the salesman there was like, "Yeah, you just got to buy a cart, buy a motor, and get some tires, and you're good to go." We were eventually told that was that was BS, and there's a lot more to racing than that. But it started there. By the end of that summer, we had 2 go-karts. I was racing and getting podiums. I got a podium at my first race, and I fell in love with it. It became the center of everything, enough to where by then I didn't even care if there was a NASCAR or an IndyCar race on. I was at the racetrack racing on the weekends. It didn't matter. To me, the racing at that age, when you're 11 years old, the superstars out there are the guys in the senior class that are kicking everyone's asses and doing that. So it all started from there. I raced karts for up until my last race was like the first weekend in May in 2018 or 19. No, it had to have been 18. And I was lucky enough to win my last kart race, and I haven't been back for some reasons that you could do a whole other podcast on. But that karting kind of interjects with the car racing. I had an opportunity to do the Skip Barber School in summer of 2015, and it was a 5-day thing. You did the 3-day, and there was a 5-day advanced course. And one of the instructors there, who instructed Sage, Connor Daly, Marco Andretti, Joseph, all these IndyCar guys that have been through that program, was like, yeah, you need to go to Karts to Cars because you've got a chance to win the damn thing. And then we went to that, and kind of where things started to fall apart were Karts to Cars. The Skip Barber company wasn't really ran all that well. At least by then they weren't doing too well. They told us like weeks beforehand that you could not go practice, and this track was NOLA Motorsports Park in Newton, Louisiana. And so I'm like, okay, well, if we can't go there early, we didn't have the money to do that anyway. But I was fortunate enough to have some connections with Scott Dixon and James Hinchcliffe and Mike Hall, Scott's engineer, and they gave me all this info on the track and what to do in certain corners, how the car will relatively feel. I know a Skip Barber car is obviously a world different than an Indy car, but I got all this info, and I went in pretty educated. But when I got there, it turned out that all of the drivers there with rich parents had been practicing the week before, because Skip Barber wasn't really in a position to turn down that money. So I showed up way on the back foot, and I was on pace by the last day. But by then, with how the scoring system worked and how the heats and stuff worked, I really wasn't a contender at that point. So then after that, just kind of decided to take a step back. I ran a 4-cycle series for a couple of years that traveled around the Midwest. Had some okay races there. It wasn't great 4-cycle racing. At least that low of horsepower of that LO206 motor really wasn't my cup of tea. I like the higher horsepower stuff. But for the 10 years I ran, I was lucky. I got to have some success karting. I won 2 Midwest Sprint Series championships in 2013, and cool enough, I got to race with some of these guys that are in IndyCar now. I shared the track with Askew a couple times. I think Kyle Kirkwood was out there a couple times. Those are the only ones I can really remember. But a lot of cool experience. I met a lot of great people. A lot of people taught me a lot of things out at the kart track. Chris Linden being one of them. He's kind of the god of karting here in Minnesota. But good times. And unfortunately, the karting didn't really end with good times. And I really decided to walk away from it for quite a few reasons. But yeah, it's definitely memories that I'll have for a long time.
Very cool. Now, as far as racing as a whole, since you were mentioning NASCAR, IndyCar, etc., karting, do you have any favorite disciplines in particular?
Obviously IndyCar. It kind of mixed the fun of an oval, and the little bit of road courses. As a kid, the ovals are much more exciting to watch because they're faster, and as a kid, there's more action and just more content to watch. As I got a little older, Formula One became really, really appealing to me. So then, right around the same time when IndyCar and kart came back together, the IndyCar started going way more road course heavy. So that kind of drug me back into IndyCar as well. And um, NASCAR, I kind of left to the side once Jeff Gordon retired, and we all know what's happened to NASCAR since then.
Yeah.
We could probably make a whole other podcast on the mistakes NASCAR's made, but yeah, Formula One and IndyCar are really my two favorites right now. It's a shame none of them are running right now due to this whole this virus going on, but it's great sports.
Absolutely. Now, I know you mentioned previously when it comes to sim racing, kind of the NASCAR Revolution SE being the start of it, but as a whole, how did you find out about sim racing, and then what sims did you start with?
So, just probably like any other NASCAR fan, when I was um, in my tweens, if that's still a term, um, it was racing the NASCAR Thunder games. That was basically the start of it. I got one wheel that that actually suction cupped to like a TV table. It was spring driven, so it was awful. There was no resistance to it. I played NASCAR Thunder like nuts on that thing, until it eventually wore out. Um, no, I didn't really get into any other sims other than in iRacing. When iRacing came out, um, I really only knew about it because of my graphic design connection. I would go on all the forums of people making all the paints, all the like the big paint packs for NASCAR or NR 2003, and I just loved the art. All the images were really high quality. I could use them as wallpapers. I could print them out and hang them out on the wall. I just really liked how it looked, and that's kind of how I found out about iRacing. As soon as they let you, or as soon as people figured out you could start painting them and dropping the files in the iRacing folders, that's when I found out about iRacing, and that was probably 2009 or 10 when I found out about iRacing, and it took until 2015 for me to actually get on. I think I got a G27 for my birthday or something. I'm far from that G27 now, sitting in an Obuto rig and all the Fanatec stuff I got. But that's kind of where it started with sim racing.
Very nice. Now, since you mentioned iRacing, and obviously you've driven the Skip Barber for real, how close or far do you feel that the sim version is to the real thing?
I wasn't that far into sim racing when I started. When I raced the Skip Barbers, um, in 2015, I was still very much more a sim is just a game. The race car is where it's at. And I really didn't take it all that seriously. I will say that with the new tire model that they have on the Skip Barber, it's much more accurate as far as the being able to slide the car around, and really muscle it. Um, it takes me some time to get used to it because just like anything, you get used to one thing. The Skip Barber is kind of a whole different animal when the main thing I drive is the Indy car. But it's damn close. Give me a couple hours and I'm right there with everybody else. But yeah, I think it's pretty close. Before the tire model, it wasn't nearly close. It drove more like a kind of like an understeery go-kart. With that was way too twitchy. But right now they've got that thing damn near perfect as far as the physics and how that car handles.
Great. Now, let's make a segue for a second. You were talking about artwork. Obviously, you own GRAAFIX Designs.
Yeah.
How did the whole interest in arts, the company, and then everything you've done with graphics, why don't you tell me the story behind that?
So, weirdly enough, this all ties back to karting. We were on like a very small, very bearskin budget when I started karting. So we didn't get to have graphics for our carts or the wraps or fancy helmet painted or whatever. So I did it all myself. I was clever enough to figure out how to edit pictures and logos in PowerPoint of all things, and I printed them off, and we got special like sticker paper and laminate to put it on the go-kart, and they never really lasted that long. And then I would make like contingency logos for the car. I put my name on it, or for the card, I put my name on it. Stuff like that. And then right around probably the end of 2010, 2011, I downloaded a program called paint.net and started, I would do like hero card edits, like of Jeff Gordon or Sebastian Vettel or Dan Weldon. And then it kind of just evolved into doing kart graphics. In 2015, my dad and I started a company called Motorsport Graphic Design. And we did there. It was tough to find a cart out at Stockholm that had that didn't have a wrap on it that I did for a couple of years until the track brought in some factory carts where everyone just ran the factory graphics. But by then I was getting out of kart graphics anyway, just because the time versus money brought in wasn't very financially what's the word, workable, if that's a technical term. So then I went more toward web design, and I went to college for it. I haven't finished yet just due to how life has worked out, but it's led me down the road. It led me to one of the coolest things I've been able to do with working with the Dan Weldon Foundation and Susie Weldon. In 2013, a friend of mine who also raced at the kart track was the marketing guy for Bowers and Wilkins headphones and speakers and stuff like that. He at the time they were sponsoring Simon Pagenaud in the 77 car for Schmidt Peterson, and they're like, well, there's this big charity race at Newcastle in Indiana, and we're like, it'd be really cool if we were the only kart that had graphics on it. So I did just this custom design for Bowers and Wilkins, and then that when that was set to be confirmed that it was okay with the organizer, who was Susie Weldon, I got an email reply back from her that said, hey, you want to do all the karts? And me, as what was I in 20, I was 16 or 17. That was, I mean, that to me at that time, that was making it to IndyCar, being able to design for these guys. And the designs for that first event weren't great because I had like a 2-week window to get 20 go-karts done. But that first time we went out there, seeing Scott Dixon and Marino Franchitti, Dario wasn't in the race because he was injured. Who else was there? I'm drawing a blank now, obviously. Alex Tagliani, Connor Daly, all these stars that I watched on TV and idolized, driving go-karts with my design on it, and then thanking me for it. And it was just really cool to be able to be a part of that. And I ended up being a part of that or I still am. I did the 2014 Pro-Am I did the 2015 Pro-Am, and I did the 2019 Pro-Am. They had a break between 2015 and 2019. And I was supposed to do them this year, but with everything going on with this COVID-19, they had to cancel it this year, unfortunately. But that Dan Willem event, it's one of the coolest things I've ever got to be a part of. It's probably the only big project I've been a part of that I would put above being in Lionheart and doing all the Lionheart stuff. Just because one, I got to race in it. I actually won a heat race teammates with Marco Andretti in 2014, and I think I got second in a heat race teammates with Jay Howard in 2015. In 2015. But it's just so cool being able to meet all my heroes, Scott Dixon, and of course I can't think of all their names now that I'm on the spot. Scott and Tony Kanaan and Hinchcliffe. Obviously, I'm a Hinchcliffe fan. All those guys they're just so nice, and anybody that gives to their community as they're giving back to everything with what they're doing for the Dan Weldon Foundation and the Alzheimer's Association, which it benefited. They're just so down to earth, so appreciative, and it's so nice to meet your heroes and have that gratitude given, especially being just trying to get my name out there.
That's awesome. Now, of course, Lionheart, we're both a part of it. How did you end up joining the league?
So my buddy Isaiah, we were both, he joined Lionheart first. We were both in a league called ISL, which I think I've said this a few times today. That league could be its own podcast of the horror story that league was. But Isaiah got fed up and left, and came to Lionheart and started running. And it sounded really, really well run, well organized. I mean, when Isaiah said there was a practice requirement, that blew my mind that there was a league actually doing that, because I thought it was so awesome that was happening. I stuck around in ISL, and I think I won the last championship that I competed in, and then kind of said, "F you guys, I'm out of here." That kind of went out in a blaze of glory there. But I joined Lionheart, and right away I knew this is the league to be in. I actually almost quit iRacing altogether after ISL. But that was right around the time where I was kind of in my dilemma of quitting racing altogether, which we can get to if we want to. But yeah, when I got into Lionheart, George is very welcoming. He pulled me up. He said it'd be a 10-minute conversation. I think we talked for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And right away while I was in there, I had ideas on how I could help. And I was around all the time. And I think after about 6-7-ish months of being in the league, George said, "Hey, you want to be an admin?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I do." And it's turned into the most time-consuming, yet most fun and most what's the word I'm looking for?
Rewarding?
That's a good word. Rewarding. One of the most rewarding projects I've done, just because to see how much it's grown. And it's really cool to be a part of that growth with the social media that I do and the designing. And hell, I think I painted about 60% of the cars that are on the IndyCar roster right now. It's just really cool to see all that happen and see the league grow. And I'm gonna do a shameless plug with some of my work helped bring in HyperX, which was really cool to see and what they're doing for us. So yeah, it's really awesome. And being able to race and be competitive on top of that, I don't know how I have time to do anything else. It's just so awesome. It seems like I can't really get involved with something without being really involved. And with it being rewarding as it is, it just makes it really humbling and really satisfying as really satisfying of a community. My words got tongue tied there, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, 100%. Now, one of the other ways that you are involved in the league and how we actually met is the team NLR. How did that team come about?
So, in 2013, late 2013, myself and a guy named Quincy Carter, whose screen name was Cloud Kicker. My screen name was Spitfire. We were in a gaming clan that we eventually he got kicked out. I left because I liked him, and he got kicked out. I thought it was BS that he got kicked out, and we kept gaming together. And we were in a Modern Warfare 3 lobby. I think we were at the map. No, it wasn't. What map were we at? The map doesn't matter. But there was this guy in the chat saying Cloud Kicker's cheating, Quincy's cheating, what a douche, he's cheating. And I'm sitting there yelling back like, no, he's not. I've known this guy for 2 years. He's not cheating. What the hell are you doing? And that guy ended up being Creighton. They were messing with me. Creighton and Quincy are brothers. They thought it'd be fun to mess with me. And I ended up getting on, I think it was Mumble. It was kind of like TeamSpeak. And very quickly figured out that Creighton was also a kart racer. He raced dirt oval and dirt paved. Was in the NASCAR, just racing in general he was into. And very shortly after that, probably by 2014, summer of 2014, we were doing a league on NASCAR, the game, which that game was awful. But we would fill up the lobby of 16 guys, and we'd battle through all the lag, all the glitching, all the crap that game threw at us, and we ran a championship. And it was the NLR NASCAR the Game Championship. By the end of, we did that until like the end of 2015, and that's about when I got on iRacing. And NLR as a gaming community, gaming clan, whatever you want to call it, really didn't flourish into anything. We had a good core group of guys, but it really just ended up turning into a sim racing team. I got on iRacing, Creighton got on like 6 months after. Then we met Isaiah, a guy named Jacob Gordon. Nate hopped in. I know Nate from karting. We all kind of started running together, and NLR basically just became a thing. And it's been my sim racing home since 2015 when I started at it. I know if I'm ever looking for a team of guys to run with to do a endurance race, like we're running Le Mans next weekend.
Nice.
Or not Le Mans, Nürburgring.
Oh, man.
That's the place. That's the place to be. I know I'm off running with LPM. Those guys are awesome, and I when I joined LPM, I was like, cool, but I keep an NLR close. There's no way that NLR is out of my sim racing life. So, and now there's an association between the two teams. So, everything's worked out pretty well as far as that goes.
That's awesome. Now, for everyone watching that doesn't know, this crazy guy was the first person to reach out when I joined Lionheart and offer me a team spot. And when you messaged me, Tyler, I just had this good feeling. And since then, it's been, close to 2 years that it's been nothing but fantastic. And I just want to take the time and thank you for that, because it's been nothing short of amazing, man.
Yeah, anytime, man. When I was looking to build the team, some things have kind of fallen apart. Lionheart's obviously a big time commitment, and not all the guys from NLR wanted to take that time commitment, which I understood. And at the time, it was just Isaiah and myself running it in Lionheart, and I needed to build a team. And to me, it didn't really make sense to go for guys that I didn't really know that the only reason to add them to a team that is that they were insanely fast. It was to go to the guys that were committed, that were good, that I knew were good people, and that took their time to learn their craft and really get into the nitty gritty of sim racing. And you were obviously one of those people, so I thought it was the right move. And obviously, you won a few races last year, so it was a good, it was a good pick. So, yeah.
Thanks, man. Now, we get to the very fun part, because obviously, while this is primarily a racing interview, we do have to talk about some of the fun stuff outside of racing. So this is the part where we can talk about whatever you want. Whoops, microphone. Everything goes. And some things that I know you're an expert on are dabbing and memes and Green Day. So you have the floor. Whatever you want to talk about, anything goes right now.
I mean, I don't know if I put dabbing and the memes together. That was more just exploiting a bad joke. I don't really do it all that much anymore. I know my buddy Nate, every time he sneezes, when he sneezes into his arm, he'll dab.
Nice.
Yeah, I've got a weird sense of humor, probably a dark sense of humor. Probably shouldn't laugh at all the things that I laugh at. But I think I'm good at separating reality from a joke, and I think that's really a good thing, that really good trait that I've acquired. I don't know who I really got that from. My parents don't understand my sense of humor whatsoever. So I probably got that from my friends in high school. Yeah. I mean, watch the movie Wayne's World. It's my favorite movie. That's probably why my humor is the way it is. Music's a huge part of my life. I mean, I got a Green Day, Linkin Park tattoo.
Nice.
Green Day is kind of been my rock as far as just feels and something to relate to since I was 11 or 12. I'm 24 now, so I've been around listening to Green Day for a long time. It's I mean, obviously I like the music. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love the music. I love the sound. I love what they stand for. Billy Joe is just one of the human beings that I think a lot of people should strive to be. If more people were as socially conscious and mentally straight as he is, at least now. I know he's had some troubles, but everybody has. But if more people were like people like him, the world would be a better place. And when you put that into your music, whether it's a love song or a redemption song or a political song, I think it's just it really made me wanted to connect with that. And the same thing goes with Linkin Park, and more recently in the last few years, 21 Pilots I'm really into. The Offspring, Water Parks, Stan Atlantic. There's so many pop punk bands or punk bands that I'm into, but I could go forever, to be completely honest. It's just, and I don't know if that sticks with me because of how I have been with my personal side of anxiety and stuff and depression. That a lot of that music kind of fits in that category. So yeah, but music's if anything's bigger than my love of racing, it's music. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, one thing I might have told you previously, maybe I didn't. Obviously, Green Day, Bay Area.
Yeah.
I grew up in Albany, and right next to it, the Gilman in Berkeley, where I understand they performed very early on.
Yeah.
I lived like, gosh, 3, 4 miles away from basically one of the first places they performed. Now, obviously, I never did see them perform, unfortunately, because I think they became big before I reached, like past toddlerhood. But
Yeah,
it's
they kind
kind
of they took off right around 94 when Dookie came out. So they weren't allowed to play at Gilman once they signed a record deal. That was the rule, that you couldn't have a record deal to play there. And I think some of that's changed now. But yeah, so you might have missed them playing locally. What have you been, like 4 or 5 then? I don't know if you would. Your
gosh,
parents
three
would
or
want
four.
you.
Yeah, three or
They
four at
wouldn't have
that
wanted
time.
you at a punk rock show, I don't think.
Yep. Now, I do have to ask, on your right over there, you've got that helmet in the background. What's the
Oh
story behind that one? Because I see
yeah.
it has graphics and everything on there, and I think some Asian characters.
So that's just my karting helmet, or I got it when I started running the Skip Barbers. It's basically wrapped like and I can send you some pictures if you want to throw them on screen. I don't want to bend back and get it. It's based off of Sebastian Vettel's helmet. Just something I did it quickly, but it's got "Long Live Love" on it, which is the slogan for my clothing project, Cartoon Heart, and then that's just "Long Live Love" in a bunch of different languages. And then the logos up the side. There used to actually be all that side of the helmet used to be all my favorite bands used to be all over it in that chrome foil. But when I ended up racing in the Dan Weldon Pro-Am last year, I peeled that all off just because it didn't last very well. I did it myself with my vinyl cutter just because I didn't want to pay to have it painted. But yeah, it's it turned into a very personal helmet. I run that one of my helmets in iRacing's that same livery. But yeah, it's I keep it around. It's got that racing smell inside of it still, if I'm ever missing it. But I keep it around. Hopefully, it doesn't sit on the shelf forever. But right now, I with how things ended in racing, I really don't have any intention to do anything outside of sim racing for a while.
Okay, so now one thing in Lionheart that obviously is a big deal. The league is actually named after, well, the original Lionheart, Dan Weldon. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand you were actually very fortunate enough to meet him before his untimely passing.
Yeah, so weirdly enough, I became a fan of Dan just because I grew up in a very small town, and so you're never going to hear an accent. All we have is our cute Minnesotan accents. Of course, the Minnesotan just came out, but he won a race. I think his first win was Motegi in like 04, and I happened to see it, and they interviewed him, and there's this British dude, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm going to cheer for him, and I just kept following Dan. I was sitting in the same spot when he won the 05 Indy 500 as when I watched his final race. I don't know if that says more about us not getting new furniture in 6 years, but I would watch him as much as I could. I know when he won the 2011 Indy 500, I was actually racing in Indianapolis that weekend over at Newcastle. And when I found out, I was ecstatic. I was heartbroken that he wasn't in a car that year. But finding out he won that race was just absolutely insane. But back to meeting him, Dan, basically we were on a track tour at Kansas Speedway in 2009. Dan was running the National Guard car then. And when we were on the track tour, we're walking through the pits, like back behind all of the pit boxes, and he had just pulled in from practice. And I looked at the tour guide, and she's like, if you want his autograph, you got to go now. So I ran up to the split in the pit wall where where the cars were driving to the garage. He parked it in this pit box. But I walked up and I said, can I have your autograph? And I handed him, it's hanging on the wall over there still. I handed him his hero card. And he looked at me. He kind of gave me a weird look. He didn't really say anything. He walked away and he came back with a Sharpie. And he's like, you got to have I'm going to do a horrible British accent here. He's like, you got to have a Sharpie to get autographs. So he signed it for me. And he was so nice about it. He thanked me for coming out that day. It was in all, it was a 1-minute interaction. But it as an 11-year-old kid just started racing, it was an absolute dream just to meet this guy. And I should have asked for a picture, and I wish I did. But I was just starstruck meeting him, and I think he had a tough weekend. I think he finished 9th or 10th that weekend. But I mean, everything in the few Panther years were a little tough, just based on his previous success with Ganassi and Andretti. But it was awesome. He was he made you. The stories are true. Everyone you talk to that met Weldon, he makes you feel like you're the only guy, the only fan at the racetrack. He was the only driver that took the time and acted like I was standing there. We walked by a few other drivers. Danica blew us off. A couple other drivers didn't really care that there were fans walking around. Dan would have missed a Dan seems like the kind of guy that would have missed a qualifying run to please a fan. I hope he didn't do that, but just because qualifying is important, as we know as racers. But definitely somebody that really tries everything he can to put other people first. And that's something that I've tried to do my entire life. And really someone everyone should strive to be, kind of like I said with my other idol, Billy. But Dan is just, he's the definition of it. He's the golden child of role models. He's the guy that that you would want your daughter to date, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, one other thing that you had hinted towards that I know might not be so easy to talk about is, unfortunately, you did end up quit racing basically the real race cars. Obviously, we both still do it virtually, but I know that was a bit tough, but you put Skip Barber and go-karts by the wayside.
Yeah, so I almost quit in 2011 after Dan died, because obviously I can't say I was his biggest fan, because anybody who liked IndyCar was a Dan Weldon fan. I don't think you could dislike the guy. At the weekend after he passed away, we had a race weekend, and that's when I switched to number 70. I ran as number 77 for a while after that. It was kind of just my way of coping. And that next weekend, a guy named, I mentioned him earlier, his name was Chris, or is Chris. He had a big rollover at the track, and that really freaked me out. It was the first time I'd seen a go-kart flip. It was the first time a go-kart had flipped in a race I was in. It really freaked me out. And as a 15-year-old, dealing with all the other crap that you deal with when you're 15 years old, with your head, brain, and anxiety and everything, it was really tough to deal with. I was able to kind of put that away and keep pushing and for racing, and I was really okay until like the end of 2015. In 2015, I had a great year racing. I think I had like an average finish of like 2.3.
Damn.
It was the year of finishing second. I think I got a couple wins, but it was the year of finishing second. And that field for the World Formula Open was just so close. But at the end of that season, we were going into I'm gonna be a race car driver, and I'm gonna talk with my hands.
Sure.
There was a corner that we would go straight to a hairpin, and it was a standing start. We went, and all day when I gridded at the front, and I was starting second or third this race because I had a good day for the overall points. I started on the outside, so I was swinging really wide and I was diving in to really arc that corner and get a good run for the straightaway coming up. And I had done it safely, but what I didn't know is on the inside of me, they had went 2 or 3 wide, and the cart got hit, picked up in the air, and as I was cutting across the track, he was flying over the curb and clotheslined me and kind of hit me here, back of the shoulder and in the neck. And I went a few more corners, and then when the cart broke, I realized I was hurt. I got away from any serious injury, but there was a lot of bruising in my neck and in my arm and my back, and it was freaky. It was freaky going to the hospital. It was freaky seeing the EMT come up to me. It was freaky being told to go to the hospital to begin with. And they throw the neck brace on you at the hospital. They act like you're dying, which they have to. They got to take every precaution. But after that, I actually had the Skip Barber carts to cars thing, and I was able to kind of push that aside and go race and be okay. But then after that, after I went to that's when Justin Wilson died. And if you haven't caught on, I attach myself very personally to the things I love as far as IndyCar and music, and if something happens in that community, it hits home just because of how much I invest myself into the things I love, and that kind of that hurt to see another person pass away, and obviously it sucks. And then I considered not racing in 2016, decided to go back. I was working with a great guy named Charles Trippy at the time. We were doing the CTFXC drive to end brain cancer. So I was raising money for that. And that's what really kept me going for the last year or so of 2 years of my karting. And unfortunately, that in 2016, there weren't really any opportunities to get in a car. I raced that touring series I mentioned earlier in the 4-cycle carts and went okay. During that season, my Intrepid chassis that I ran for years, it just never gave up. It finally crapped out on me, and I had to switch to a crappier chassis that I had, and it wasn't all going all that great. And then 2017, I got in an accident where I was coming out of a corner and I popped out to pass somebody at the same time she popped out to pass somebody, and it just launched this guy in the air. And I mean, he flipped over me and took my feet, that came across my feet, and had some sore ankles for a while. And I mean, by then I'm 18 or 19, and obviously racing hadn't worked out. And at this point, I'm kind of scared shitless. Sorry, can I swear? I'm sorry.
No, do whatever you want.
I was freaked out, and I knew it was time to just take a step back. So at that point, I don't think I raced another race that year. Kind of let myself mentally heal from being freaked out. And I know kart crashes are kart crashes, but when so many things stack up, especially seeing people you look up to pass away and then getting in accidents, it's hard for your mind not to just get freaked out. So 2018, I decided I was going to try one more season, and I went out and actually, back up just a sec. They put me in the I requested to be put in the Masters class, the the older guys class, not like geezers running around, just guys in their 30s and 40s. And I mean, I was 20, but for weight, I was better to run in their class than I was to run in the open class. The doctors had put me on medication for anxiety and stuff that made me gain a little weight. And you can't lose 10 pounds in 3 months, or not three, maybe you can lose it in 3 months, but in a week, you can't lose 10 pounds when you find out that they're changing the weight for the open class the day before the season starts, which really upset me. So I was like, hey, you guys got to give me something to run here. So I went and decided to run, or they decided if you run the full season, you could run the Masters class. You could run with these guys. And I was like, awesome. That's great. These guys race respectfully. There's really not big crashes here. I can come out here and I can have fun. I won my first race with them. And the next morning I was called to the race director and they're like, no, you can't run with these guys anymore. Your youth showed. And that basically comes down to somebody bitched. Somebody was like, this kid's too, whatever. And then basically, what am I to do? Go sit there and spend thousands of dollars to go race in dead last? And basically, I mean, the kart track, I'd given that place 10 years. I worked there for 5 years. And that was kind of like the last straw, if that makes sense. I was just like, screw this. I'm having more fun sim racing right now anyway. I think it's time to set it aside. And I think for the last few years, that's probably one of the better decisions I've made, just for as far as mental health and financially. Karting costs a lot. But yeah, it kind of all started unraveling when the opportunities to keep advancing through car racing kind of dried up. And obviously, auto racing is an expensive sport. And it when you realize it can't be a career, and you're already, like I said before, you're scared, you got all this other stuff piling up, it's just not worth it. And the best thing that came out of all of it is, like I said, I was doing the drive to end brain cancer with my buddy Charles, and I actually met my girlfriend Mariah, who I've been with for almost 4 years now. Nice. Through that. She was also a viewer of this guy on YouTube that I was working with, and that's how we met. We met at a concert. That was a meetup was set up through that group, and kind of the rest is history. So things kind of end up working out in a weird way, but the way that it led me to sim racing, it all kind of matches up, and it's just kind of cool how everything works out, and sometimes for the better. Obviously, accidents and people passing away are not part of that, but it's just kind of weird how everything connects, and that's just how my weird mind makes it all go together.
Okay, so Tyler, I just want to take the time and thank you. This has been amazing. Like, I was hoping, obviously, with this kind of segment that I just get to hear, really, we get to see who these people in the league, who they are, and this was, I mean, I was hoping it would be good, and this was fantastic. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and obviously we'll have to do this again sometime. So
yeah, anytime. I'm happy I could be the guinea pig. Hopefully I was entertaining. Like I said, like you said with Lionheart and how awesome it is. Everyone's got their story and how it gets here. It could be something as simple as you saw a post on iRacing World, or you have this whole story of racing and it not working out, and then you end up here. I mean, every story in every way, regardless of how complicated it might be, it all leads to Lionheart for these guys. So it's an honor to be here. I'm glad I get to be your guinea pig. Just make sure you feed and water me twice a day, and I'll be healthy.
Well, this has been Mark Cohn from the DMLC Racing channel. I'm Mark Cohn. You've been watching our first The Heart of Lionheart podcast with Tyler Graaf. Thank you so much for watching. Have a very good rest of your evening now.